Imagine living in a town where everyone knows your name, where childhood memories are built around laughter echoing through quiet streets and neighbors greet each other with a smile. Delphi, Indiana, was that kind of town. A place where safety felt like a birthright, and the only worry children had was how to make the most of the long summer days. Yet, in the gentle heartbeat of this small community, two young girls unknowingly documented the moments leading up to their worst nightmare, capturing an image and a sound that would grip the nation and haunt those who loved them. Abigail, Abby Williams and Libby German were best friends, bonded by a shared sense of adventure. On February 13, 2017, they set out together, excited to explore the Monon High Bridge, an old, towering railway bridge that loomed high above Deer Creek. They had walked that trail before, the rusted tracks and whispering trees held no secrets. Or so they thought. Libby, ever the one to record their adventures, had her phone in hand. A single photo posted at 2:07 p.m. showed Abby, walking confidently, balancing her steps on the decaying beams of the bridge. What neither of them knew was that someone was watching. Someone was following. Someone who had chosen that day, that moment, to shatter the innocence of their childhood forever. When they didn't return to the spot where Libby's father was waiting, worry began to creep in. Calls went unanswered, and the air seemed to thicken with dread. By nightfall, flashlights pierced through the woods as family and friends desperately searched. Delphi's sense of safety was cracking, and the once quiet trails had turned into a maze of unanswered questions. Then, on February 14th, the search came to a heart-stopping end. Abby and Libby's bodies were found near the creek, less than a mile from the bridge. The dreams they held, the laughter they shared, silenced. But even in those final, unthinkable moments, Libby left behind a crucial clue, an audio recording, a voice saying, "Down the hill." Two words, etched in fear, that would later echo through the corridors of a nationwide investigation. Who was the man in the grainy image, and why had he chosen that day, that bridge, those girls? How could someone slip away so easily, hidden among neighbors, their secrets locked behind a friendly smile? For over 5 years, Delphi would live with those unanswered questions, each one more painful than the last. Until a name emerged, a name that had always been there, woven into the fabric of the community. Richard Allen, a man who had handed out prescriptions at the local CVS, greeted customers and carried on his life as if nothing had happened. His arrest in October 2022 would send shockwaves through the town. How had he stayed hidden in plain sight, and what evidence finally brought him to justice? As we unravel this complex, haunting case, the story of Abby and Libby is more than a tragedy. It's a reminder of the fragility of safety and the silent darkness that can dwell even in the most familiar places. Tonight, we explore the pieces of a puzzle that captivated a nation, a mystery that forced a community to confront the unthinkable, and the truth behind the voice that still echoes, down the hill. Delphi, Indiana, a place where neighbors smile as they pass each other on narrow streets, where church bells echo across fields, and the Monon High Bridge stands as a relic of history. Home to fewer than 3,000 residents, Delphi has always been a town where people feel safe, where families are tightly knit, and children grow up playing freely. It's the kind of town where people take comfort in familiarity, where darkness, true darkness, seems unimaginable. But that illusion of safety was shattered on a cold, quiet day in February 2017. It was a day that began like any other, with laughter, plans, and promises, and it ended in a tragedy that sent shockwaves far beyond this small Indiana town. Abby Williams, 13 years old, was known for her artistic talent and warm heart. She loved creating and sharing her art with friends, her laughter a familiar sound to those who knew her best. Libby German, just 14, was a young girl full of curiosity and courage, with a passion for photography. She was the kind of person who always looked out for others, who captured moments that felt important. Together, Abby and Libby were inseparable, bonded not just by friendship but by the kind of trust that defines childhood. February 13, 2017, was a day off from school. The girls saw it as an opportunity for adventure, a chance to explore the Monon High Bridge, an old, towering structure high above Deer Creek. It was a well-loved spot for photos and walks, where echoes of the past seemed to linger in the wooden planks and rusted beams. The bridge, beautiful and haunting in equal measure, became the setting for a story that Delphi would never forget. At 2:07 p.m., Libby posted that photo on Snapchat, a simple snapshot of a moment filled with innocence and excitement. But as the afternoon wore on and evening approached, their families grew anxious. Abby and Libby had promised to return, but they didn't. Calls went unanswered, and the day's gentle calm gave way to worry. By 5:30 p.m., fear had settled in, and the girls were reported missing. As daylight slipped away, the people of Delphi mobilized to search for them, friends and strangers coming together in the bitter cold, flashlights cutting through the night. The woods, once familiar, felt vast and impenetrable. Voices echoed, calling out their names, hoping for a response that never came. Parents clung to hope, but as the hours passed, hope became harder to hold on to. The night passed in a haze of anxiety and exhaustion. When the sun rose the next morning, it did so on a town holding its breath. And then, at 12:15 p.m. on February 14th, the search came to a devastating end. Just half a mile from the bridge, along the banks of Deer Creek, the bodies of Abby and Libby were discovered. The world of Delphi, so full of innocence and community, was forever changed. In an instant, a community that had known only safety and trust was enveloped in grief and fear. The loss of Abby and Libby was incomprehensible, and the search for their killer began. But as days turned to weeks, and weeks turned to years, the questions loomed over Delphi: who had done this? How could such evil touch their lives? And would justice ever be served? When the girls didn't return, their families grew worried. Abby and Libby were always responsible, never the type to wander off without letting someone know. As the afternoon light faded and shadows stretched across Delphi, the sense of unease deepened. Calls went unanswered, and anxiety turned to fear. By nightfall, the search was on, with the entire community coming together, driven by desperation and a flicker of hope. As dawn broke on February 14, 2017, the hope that had sustained the searchers through the long, freezing night began to wane. And then, at 12:15 p.m., the search ended in heartbreak. Along the banks of Deer Creek, less than a mile from where they were last seen, the bodies of Abby Williams and Libby German were discovered. The laughter and dreams of two young girls, who should have had their whole lives ahead of them, were silenced forever. The news hit Delphi like a thunderbolt. This small, tight-knit town was suddenly thrust into the national spotlight. Everyone wanted answers. Who had done this? How could such evil invade their peaceful community? As investigators began piecing together clues, they were left with a single, haunting message that would echo in Delphi for years to come. The investigation that followed was one of the largest and most complex in Indiana's history. Local police, state authorities, and the FBI all descended on Delphi, determined to find justice for Abby and Libby. The break in the case came from an unlikely source, Libby German's cell phone. In those final, terrifying moments, Libby had the presence of mind to record a video. It was a decision that would become a testament to her courage. The video was grainy, but it showed a figure walking across the Monon High Bridge. A man in a dark jacket and jeans, hands tucked in his pockets. The image wasn't clear enough for an easy identification, but paired with the audio recording, it became the most vital clue investigators had. They released both to the public, hoping someone would recognize the suspect. Down the hill. The voice became infamous, sending chills down the spines of everyone who heard it. Despite thousands of tips and leads pouring in from across the nation, the trail seemed to go cold. Weeks turned to months, and months turned to years. Delphi waited, holding its breath, haunted by the image of the man on the bridge and the sound of his voice. The lack of answers led to swirling rumors, a growing frustration, and a community that felt abandoned by justice. Who was the man on the bridge, and why couldn't he be caught? Then, in 2022, the case took a shocking and unexpected turn. For 5 long years, the case remained unsolved, a cold shadow over Delphi. But in October 2022, the community received the news they had been waiting for, yet dreading. Richard Allen, a name few outside of Delphi had ever heard, was arrested and charged with the murders of Abby and Libby. To the public, he was a mystery. But to the people of Delphi, he was a neighbor, a familiar face. Richard Allen lived in plain sight. A father, a husband, an employee at the local CVS pharmacy. He'd attended local events, shared small talk with customers, and passed by the very memorials dedicated to the 2 girls he is now accused of murdering. His arrest shocked Delphi to its core. How had he managed to evade suspicion for so long? And what damning evidence had finally led police to him? The arrest of Richard Allen was a major turning point, but it also left many unanswered questions. How did he live undetected for so long? Did he act alone, or was there more to the story? The community's relief at finally having a suspect was mixed with unease. The Delphi murders, a tragedy that began on the Monon High Bridge, now carried a new chapter, one that would be scrutinized and debated, with the hope that the full truth would finally emerge. What goes through the mind of a man who can commit such unspeakable violence and then carry on with life as if nothing happened? How does someone become capable of taking the lives of 2 young girls and then return to a routine of grocery shopping, family dinners, and friendly conversations with neighbors? It's a psychological enigma that experts have spent years trying to understand, but the truth remains chilling and complex. Richard Allen is not the first criminal to live a seemingly normal life while harboring a dark secret. Experts have drawn comparisons to other notorious cases, killers who were husbands, fathers, and even community leaders. But what drives this ability to separate a violent, predatory side from a public persona that appears ordinary and harmless? It's a psychological tightrope, and few understand how these individuals keep their horrifying truths buried so deeply. The people of Delphi never imagined that someone like Richard Allen could be capable of such cruelty. They spoke to him, smiled at him, perhaps even shared casual conversations. And all the while, if the allegations are true, he carried the weight of an unspeakable crime, hidden beneath the guise of an everyday man. How does a community recover from that? How does a town reconcile the fear that evil wore a familiar face? For Delphi's residents, the arrest of a man they knew, a man who had attended community events, waved to them in passing, and seemed so ordinary, shattered any remaining sense of security. Suddenly, the narrative of the familiar, friendly neighbor became a terrifying story of deception. People questioned their memories, wondering if they had missed any signs, or if they too had unknowingly crossed paths with a monster. The ability to maintain a mask of normalcy is often a survival mechanism. It allows individuals to compartmentalize their actions, living as if nothing ever happened. It's what makes cases like this so deeply unsettling, the idea that someone can participate in the rituals of daily life while harboring a horrifying truth. And that leaves a lasting impact on the people who thought they knew him. Imagine being part of a community where a killer lived among you for years, moving through the same spaces, breathing the same air, carrying the knowledge of what he had done. The weight of that realization is something Delphi still grapples with. How do you heal from a betrayal so profound, so deeply personal? How do you trust again? Richard Allen's arrest in October 2022 was a monumental moment, not only for the families of Abby and Libby but for the entire community of Delphi and the nation that had followed this haunting case. The investigation into Allen was a masterclass in patience and precision, the result of dogged police work and advancements in forensic science. But even with his arrest, the case remained shrouded in layers of mystery, with crucial details still locked away behind sealed court documents. The arrest affidavit for Richard Allen was sealed from public view, a rare move that only added to the aura of suspense surrounding the case. The evidence linking him to the crime remains largely a secret, and law enforcement has shared only select, cryptic details with the public. This secrecy has led to wild speculation and a deep unease among those following the case. What are they hiding, and why? Sources close to the investigation hint that it was a combination of forensic techniques and meticulous police work that led to Alan's arrest. But what exactly did they find? And why has so much of it been kept secret? Was it a new piece of DNA evidence, or something as simple, and as damning, as a confession or a witness statement? The narrative surrounding Alan's arrest hints at a methodical approach. Investigators kept their cards close to their chest, working quietly but determinedly, knowing the eyes of the world were on them. They had one goal: to ensure that the arrest would lead to a conviction, that there would be no missteps. The weight of bringing justice for Abby and Libby was immense, and every detail had to be perfect. But even as the case moves forward, the most pressing question remains unanswered: was Richard Allen the only one involved, or is there more to the story? In Delphi, rumors of a larger conspiracy or additional accomplices have never quite faded. Authorities have been cagey, refusing to comment on whether they believe more arrests could be imminent, and that silence has only fueled speculation. The possibility of additional suspects isn't just speculation, it's a genuine fear. Some in the community wonder if Allen was part of something bigger, if there are others out there who played a role in the girls' deaths. This theory isn't far-fetched. In high-profile cases like this, investigators often keep crucial details hidden, hoping to use the element of surprise to their advantage. But for the people of Delphi, that uncertainty is unsettling. The Delphi murders have always carried an air of suspense and mystery, and even with an arrest, the story feels incomplete. It's a case built on fragments: a voice caught on a cell phone, a blurry image of a man on a bridge, and evidence that we may never fully understand. For now, the truth remains partially obscured, locked away in files that few have seen. And until more details come to light, the questions will continue to haunt us: was Allen truly acting alone, or is there still more to discover? And if there is, will the town of Delphi ever find peace? For Abby and Libby's families, the years since that tragic February day have been filled with unimaginable pain and resilience. They have waited, through days that felt impossibly long, and nights spent wondering if they would ever see justice for their girls. They became advocates, faces of strength and determination, even as the loss of Abby and Libby left a wound that would never fully heal. Richard Allen's arrest brought them a sense of hope, but no conviction, no measure of justice, could ever restore what was taken. Delphi is a town forever changed. Where once there was a feeling of unshakable security, there is now a deep-seated awareness of the fragility of life. The laughter of Abby and Libby should still echo through these streets, in classrooms, and on playgrounds. Instead, their absence is felt like a heavy shadow. Yet, their legacy lives on in the ways the community has come together, in the acts of kindness inspired by their memories, and in the vow to never forget what happened here. The arrest of Richard Allen was a critical milestone, but it didn't erase the questions that linger in the minds of many. The community of Delphi wonders, how do you heal from such a profound and senseless loss? What does it mean to move forward when the echoes of that day remain? And will we ever know the full extent of what happened, or will some truth stay buried forever? Libby German and Abby Williams were more than victims of a crime, they were daughters, sisters, friends, and dreamers. Their lives, though cut short, left an indelible mark on everyone who knew them and even those who only learned of them through this heartbreaking case. Their families have fought tirelessly, turning their grief into a mission to bring awareness to unsolved cases, to support other families searching for justice, and to remind the world of the power of hope. The case of the Delphi murders has sparked conversations and debates across the country, highlighting the importance of community vigilance, the advances in forensic technology, and the tireless work of law enforcement. But for the people of Delphi, the most important message is one of remembrance. Abby and Libby will forever be a part of this town's history, not defined by the crime that took them, but by the love and light they brought into the world. Even now, years later, Abby and Libby's story continues to inspire acts of compassion, efforts to protect the vulnerable, and a commitment to never forget. As the case unfolds, we hold on to the hope that every question will be answered, that justice will be served in its entirety, and that someday, Delphi will find a measure of peace. Until then, we honor Abby and Libby by telling their story, by carrying their memories forward, and by standing together in the face of darkness. If you found yourself captivated by this story of loss, courage, and the relentless search for justice, consider joining our community of true crime enthusiasts. We dive into some of America's darkest and most compelling mysteries, examining the details, uncovering the unknown, and remembering the victims behind every case. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and click the notification bell to stay updated. We post weekly deep dives into unsolved mysteries, famous cases, and the psychology behind crime, with content designed to keep you on the edge of your seat. And we want to hear from you, your theories, your thoughts, and the cases you'd like us to explore next. Leave your theories in the comments. Was Richard Allen truly acting alone, or is there more to the Delphi case than we know? And what are your thoughts on the sealed evidence? Your insights could help us piece together the story and keep the conversation going. And remember, stay safe, stay curious, and never stop seeking the truth. Until next time, take care and keep your eyes open to the mysteries of the world.